Okay, so this part of the morning is going to be thinking through and talking about things like electives, prereqs, major supporting courses, and basically just general course planning in this new GE. As with the previous sessions, this is being recorded. I miss it. Sounds like there's some issues with the chat. Maybe we hit some sort of limit. So feel free at the end. I will leave some time so that we can unmute and you can ask questions or send them to Shannon via her Teams. So the new GE, of course, the whole point of it was to reduce the number of hours in the GE itself to open up some opportunities. Now, some programs may not see an increase or only a small increase in the unassigned credit hours because they had so many major supporting courses that they'll continue to offer. But advisors can prepare to talk to more students about what to do with that additional time if that's appropriate to that program. So here you'll see you've had these discussions previously. Students can complete any necessary major prereqs, a second major dual degree, minor certificates, etc., with the additional time that they may have. So again, with prerequisites, some plans of study are still going to continue to have many prerequisite courses that will fill the vacated credit hours. They'll just be in their major supporting courses area as opposed to specifically in the GE. However, there is some allowance for some of that to be shared. So if the student hasn't already come in with those GE categories shared and there is opportunity, they are welcome to plan for that. Sequenced coursework, major prereqs, now called major supporting courses, and pre-professional plans of study as well will take up a lot of those opened up hours for some students. So what the major supporting courses are, these are courses that the major requires students to take that are not part of the core curriculum. So an example for this would be, say, in the biology major, where students are required to take the intro biology sequence, the intro chemistry. You know, these are courses, because they're 1000 level, they're not allowed to be part of the official major, so they'll be major supporting courses, and that's kind of how they're expressed even currently to those students in that major. Major co-requisites, let me make sure I'm reading this right, sorry. So the major co-requisites, courses that the major requires students to take that are not part of the core curriculum. Some majors may designate specific courses for embedded literacies as major supporting courses. So when we were talking about embedded literacies in the first session today, some of them will be built into the major itself, some may be major supporting courses. The key thing is that they have to be required to complete as part of the student's curriculum for that plan of study. The other thing that may happen is that courses within the major may have course prerequisites that the students will also have to take. And if they're not part of the GE, they are still going to be required to take them. So think through that with your course planning with your students, and make sure that if there are any of those courses that are important for them, to keep in mind that you're letting them know that. So course level prereqs may not be listed as part of the major curriculum. Having them listed as those major supporting courses helps that the students won't miss them. And so you'll see that if you've taken a look at the curriculum sheets that Amy uploaded into the use site just earlier this morning, you'll see how those are sort of marked out for for those programs where it's important to have those. For those students that will have elective hours as a result of this change, or additional elective hours if in that major, then excuse me, If the major they've chosen allows for a certain amount of elective hours, and that is increasing, or they're gaining some elective hours that they didn't have with the legacy GE, there are a variety of different things that you can work with the students on talking about. Big one, second majors. We have a lot of students who are already doing those. And with the change a few years ago to allow second majors across colleges, with a certain subset of the majors at the university allowed being that M2 to cross college, we've had a lot more students doing those. And so this opening up of potentially additional elective hours may allow for students who maybe only had room for a minor on the current or the legacy GE to actually have enough room now to do that second major. So there's information on this link for our second major expectation requirements, including a list of the majors that are allowed to be that M2 across colleges. Some students, especially those who come in perhaps with a lot of their foundations done already, but intend to be here for a full 4 years, either to take advantage of scholarships or other, preparation for what they want to do beyond college. They may have the time to actually do that dual degree as well. Now that there's that consistency in GE across colleges, it's a little bit easier, I think, to do that dual degree than it has been in the past, because the course that they took for their their like history and culture and ideas type course, it counts regardless of what major they're in. They will still have to do the major supporting courses or any college separate requirements. So I anticipate any dual degree where one of the degrees is from arts and sciences, the student's still going to have to do the world language. But they've got some additional flexibility here that maybe was harder to do in our current legacy GE, because some colleges very much specified these specific GE courses. Arts and sciences, as I said earlier, has a good list of all the minors with the who the coordinating advisor is for that minor, the list of all the courses. There's you can open it up, and it's actually a PDF that you can send to the student or send them off with if they happen to be there with you. There's some really great minors if you haven't taken a look at stuff in there, and there's new ones being proposed all the time. I've been quite excited to see some of the new interdisciplinary kind of collaborations that we're seeing out there. Same thing with the certificates. There's a food and culture certificate that I would just love to take all those courses. The registrar has the full listing of the programs, and what you're looking for is 1A or 1B certificates, because those are ones that are for undergraduate students. 1A are embedded, which means they must do them as part of a bigger bachelor degree program. 1B are the ones that are standalone. I think I got that order right. And there's not as many of those. The arts and sciences minors page, I have seen where they have at least some of those certificates listed there, but I believe there it might just be the ones offered by the College of Arts and Sciences. So there's some really cool certificates in there as well. So these are all things that students can use to enhance their degree, especially if they are in a program that allows for opening up more time, more elective hours for them to be doing these additional plans. So for those students then that have these, true electives, so that it's not all being taken up by the major supporting courses and all that, these are some good ways, or some additional ways that they can use those elective hours. Using it to explore majors or careers. Certainly engaging in, quote, reality testing to determine fit. A lot of students come in with an idea of what a major is based on maybe something they've seen on TV or from, you know, perhaps a family member or friend was in that major, but perhaps a long time ago. Or they're been given, oh, you're good at X, you should major in Y. And so they hear that and they don't really know until they get here and start taking the courses if that's really them. You know, for me, I was good in science. I should major in science. I started off as a biology major and decided, well, I liked science. I didn't like it well enough to take that many classes in science. I took Psych 1100, or well, 100 back then, but because somebody else said something like, oh, you're good at working with people. And I took that, and that's what made me decide to change my major to psychology, because I really enjoyed that course. So students can do some of that with these elective hours. There are, of course, for those students that find themselves struggling a little bit with the transition to college, our academic skills courses. There's quite a variety of them, and each one has kind of a different purpose to it. So if you're not familiar with these, arts and sciences ones are the research, online research classes. Then you've got the different study skills and success type courses through education psychology. Additional things that students can do with these, building transferable skills. So student is not required to do world languages in your college, but perhaps it would actually be beneficial to them with what they want to do long term. That might be one thing to do. Public speaking, our school communication offers 2 variations on public speaking. Of course, their persuasive communication, that's a useful skill pretty much in any field that you're going to be going into, because we all have to persuade people to do something, just as we're going to be persuading our students to you know, take their launch seminar seriously, things like that. And then also participating in coursework that enhances your application. So things like if you're going to be looking to graduate or professional school long term. So research hours, for example, you know, many majors allow for, you know, 3 or 6 hours of research to count towards the major requirements. But the course itself may be repeatable to 9 or 12 credit hours. So taking advantage of those opportunities to extend that longer. Service learning opportunities, education abroad opportunities, all these are still going to exist as options for students. So these are all things you know how to do. They are still part of the, you know, part of the conversation that we continue to have with students. It's not, you know, the new GE doesn't take away from that opportunity. Obviously, encouraging those first year seminars, that's another way to get connected to faculty in a smaller base class, especially if they're not taking the launch seminar until, say, spring semester. They still can utilize the opportunities presented by the first year seminars. Using those to kind of develop your own path of interest, even if there's not an official minor. Helping students kind of find where that sort of niche is. And then, of course, there's some personal skills development. Obviously, some colleges may have limits on certain types of coursework, but there are those opportunities there. I also didn't see these listed here. I want to put a plug in for things like university band and athletic band and all the marching band, all the music ensembles that are open to non-music majors as well. So I had a great time in the couple of quarters that I was in university band as a student. So just, again, all these ideas still fit in well with the new GE structure. And as you get to know how your new GE and major curriculum kind of interact and what that leaves open for your students, particularly those programs that maybe didn't have much opportunity for that in the past and now are going to, Start, keeping these in the back of your mind as options and stuff like that. A lot of the minors out there are really interdisciplinary. And so, if you see a student that got a couple of history courses, you're like, oh, consider the history minor. It's just a couple more courses. But some of the other ones might not be as obvious. So in that, not that you necessarily have a whole lot of free time, but if you haven't taken a look at some of the minors that we have out there, especially some of the newer ones that might be there, I definitely think it's worth going to the arts and sciences site that has the listing of all the minors, and really just kind of seeing what's out there. So just so you know, like, oh, student tells you something that they're really interested in, and they're like, I think we have a minor like that. Let's go look. And you can have that conversation with them. So